In the early hours of September 22, 2025, Anchorage, Alaska, fell eerily silent. The city, usually alive with the hum of activity, seemed to hold its breath as an unusual calm settled over the landscape. The constant roar of jet engines at Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport vanished, replaced by an unsettling quiet that blanketed the runways and terminals. This wasn't a routine closure, it was a sudden total shutdown triggered by a critical infrastructure failure. Emergency vehicles rushed to the scene, their lights piercing the darkness as officials scrambled to assess the unfolding crisis. Hundreds of flights halted, thousands stranded, and the airport, a global cargo hub, was paralyzed. Passengers, both local and international, found themselves trapped in limbo, unsure when or how they would continue their journeys. The Federal Aviation Administration issued a ground stop, citing runway and taxiway integrity issues. The order rippled through the aviation world, halting operations not just in Anchorage but affecting flight paths across continents. For an airport built to withstand Arctic extremes, this was a shocking development. Anchorage's runways are engineered for snow, ice, and sub-zero temperatures, yet something had gone catastrophically wrong. Airlines scrambled to divert flights already en route across the Pacific. Pilots and crews coordinated with air traffic control, rerouting aircraft to distant airports, while passengers faced hours of uncertainty. The crisis was not a typical incident, it was a failure of the very ground beneath the airport. Deep cracks and shifting pavements signaled a problem that ran far deeper than surface repairs could fix. The shutdown raised urgent questions about infrastructure resilience in a changing climate. Experts wondered if permafrost melt or extreme weather had played a role, and whether other airports might face similar threats. This was more than an operational headache. It was a wake-up call for airport safety in the 21st century. The incident forced officials to confront vulnerabilities that had long been overlooked. To understand what happened, we must examine the events of that night and the forces that brought Anchorage's main airport to a standstill. Only by looking deeper can we uncover the lessons hidden in this unprecedented silence. Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport is no ordinary airport. Nestled in the heart of Alaska, it stands as a gateway between continents, playing a role far greater than most people realize. Strategically located at the crossroads of the world, it's a global logistics powerhouse, just 9.5 hours by air from 90% of the industrialized world's major cities. This unique position makes Anchorage a critical refueling and transfer point for international flights, especially for cargo moving between North America, Asia, and Europe. Major cargo carriers like FedEx, UPS, and DHL have established massive hubs here, making it the world's fourth busiest cargo airport. Every day the airport buzzes with activity as thousands of tons of goods are sorted, transferred, and sent on their way to destinations across the globe. Hundreds of wide-body freighters land and take off daily, moving everything from high-value electronics and medical supplies to fresh Alaskan seafood, destined for markets worldwide. The sheer scale of operations is staggering, with planes arriving and departing around the clock. For Alaska itself, ANC is the lifeline, connecting remote communities, delivering food, medicine, and other essentials, and supporting both tourism and business. Without it, many towns would be cut off from the outside world. Many Alaskan towns are accessible only by air, making ANC absolutely critical for daily life. From medical evacuations to mail delivery, the airport's reach extends to the farthest corners of the state. Its engineering is legendary, built to withstand relentless snow, thick ice, and the long, dark winter nights that define Alaska. The airport's infrastructure is designed for extreme conditions, ensuring operations continue no matter the weather. The airport's fleet of snow monsters, massive snowplows, and specialized vehicles work tirelessly to keep runways clear, earning Anchorage a reputation for all-weather reliability and safety. That's why the sudden structural failure was so shocking. The threat came from below, not above. No one expected the ground itself to become the airport's greatest vulnerability. The closure severed a vital link in global supply chains and isolated Alaska from the world, halting the flow of goods and stranding countless shipments. When ANC closed, both the Alaskan and global economies felt the shock. The ripple effects were immediate, highlighting just how essential this airport is to the world. The shutdown wasn't caused by an accident or security threat, but by a catastrophic failure of runway 15 33rds. Late on September 21st, ground crews found a deep, jagged fissure and a sinking section of runway. The depression stretched over 100 yards, making the runway unusable. The damage wasn't just surface level, it pointed to a failure in the runway's subbase. Similar cracks appeared on adjacent taxiways, revealing a systemic problem. The risk of a catastrophic accident was too high. The FAA ordered a full ground stop. All flights were diverted or grounded, shifting focus from operations to safety. Runways are built to handle massive aircraft, so this failure signaled a deeper instability. The incident highlighted the unique challenges of building infrastructure in Arctic regions. The ground everyone relied on was no longer solid, forcing the airport into paralysis. Anchorage faced a crisis from the ground up. The crisis escalated in just a few hours. At 10:45 p.m., a routine inspection found a dip and spiderweb cracks on runway 1533. Engineers quickly discovered a large, actively sinking depression. Laser measurements confirmed the ground was still moving. Air traffic controllers rerouted planes to the secondary runway, but the problem spread. By midnight, similar subsidence was found on taxiway Yankee, suggesting a wider threat. Leadership and emergency talks with the FAA realized they couldn't guarantee safety. At 1 a.m., the FAA issued a ground stop, no flights in or out. Anchorage's aviation hub fell silent, marking the start of a major infrastructure crisis. Investigators quickly zeroed in on the cause: thawing permafrost. Permafrost is ground that stays frozen for years, but much of Anchorage sits atop unstable, discontinuous permafrost. Runways absorb heat, warming the ground beneath and accelerating thaw. A 2024 study showed ground temperatures rising, pushing permafrost closer to melting. The summer of 2025 was exceptionally warm, likely triggering the collapse. When permafrost thaws, the ground loses strength and sinks, a process called thermokarst. Dr. Sarah Jensen explained, the runway's foundation lost its load-bearing capacity as the ice-rich soil turned to mud. Ground-penetrating radar revealed voids and water-saturated soil beneath the damaged runway. The incident was a dramatic warning. Climate change is undermining northern infrastructure. The airport's very foundation was melting away. The shutdown's immediate impact was chaos for thousands of stranded passengers. Terminals filled with travelers desperate for answers. Hotels booked up. Many slept on airport floors. Alaska's main air link was severed, isolating residents and visitors alike. The cargo crisis was just as severe. Hundreds of flights grounded or diverted, supply chains disrupted. FedEx and UPS faced major delays, affecting shipments of medical supplies, electronics, and perishables. The local economy felt the pain instantly, especially Alaska's fishing industry, which risked losing millions in spoiled seafood. Remote communities faced shortages of groceries, mail, and essentials. Airlines scrambled to reroute flights, incurring huge costs and logistical headaches. Aircraft and crews were left out of position, causing a domino effect of delays worldwide. The shutdown exposed just how interconnected and fragile the modern aviation system is. The true magnitude of the 36-hour shutdown is best understood when you look at the numbers behind the chaos. These figures reveal just how deeply the disruption rippled through the aviation world and beyond. On a typical day, Anchorage International Airport, or ANC, manages around 500 flights. But during the shutdown, a staggering 750 flights were either canceled outright or forced to divert to other airports, creating a domino effect across the region. More than 20,000 passengers suddenly found their travel plans upended, with many stranded far from home. Of the affected flights, 600 were dedicated cargo operations, highlighting ANC's critical role as a global freight hub. The financial impact was immediate and severe, over $50 million in losses, factoring in not just lost airline revenue, but also perishable goods that spoiled while waiting for transport. Alaska's seafood industry, which relies on fast air transport to reach global markets, reported potential losses of $10 million alone, as shipments of fresh fish and crab sat idle. Normally, ANC moves about 8,000 tons of cargo every single day. The shutdown brought this flow to a standstill, freezing an estimated 1.2 million tons of goods in place, and disrupting supply chains worldwide. Fairbanks International, the main alternate airport, was quickly overwhelmed as wide-body jets and diverted flights crowded its runways, pushing its capacity to the limit and straining local resources. The shutdown exposed a critical weakness. Alaska's aviation infrastructure lacks redundancy. With few alternate airports capable of handling large jets, the entire system was vulnerable to a single point of failure. The human toll was significant. Over 1,500 people required emergency shelter, with families and travelers forced to sleep in terminals as volunteers scrambled to provide food and blankets. News crews captured the mounting frustration and uncertainty. One traveler summed it up. "We were supposed to be in Tokyo 10 hours ago. Now we don't know when we'll leave or what comes next." The crisis was both economic and deeply personal, touching the lives of business owners, workers, and families from all over the world. For many, the shutdown meant missed opportunities, lost income, and days of anxiety. In the end, the numbers tell a story of disruption on a truly global scale, one that reached far beyond Alaska, affecting industries, economies, and people across continents. The response was swift and coordinated. Engineers and construction crews worked around the clock to assess and repair the damage. They mapped the thawed permafrost, excavated unstable soil, and backfilled with specialized gravel. Rapid curing asphalt provided a temporary but strong fix. Meanwhile, the secondary runway was certified for limited use, allowing some flights to resume within 24 hours. After 36 hours of non-stop work, emergency repairs on runway 1533 were complete. A successful test landing cleared the way for full reopening. At 1 p.m. on September 23, a Boeing 747 took off, breaking the silence. The airport was operational again, but the message was clear: long-term solutions are urgently needed. The crisis was over, but the threat remains. The Anchorage shutdown is a stark lesson in infrastructure vulnerability. Thawing permafrost turned a theoretical risk into a costly crisis, exposing the limits of old engineering standards. The rapid response was impressive, but it doesn't erase the underlying threat. The event highlighted the urgent need for proactive investment and new techniques to address permafrost thaw. Hundreds of flights were canceled, thousands stranded, and millions lost, all because the ground gave way. The airport reopened after a monumental repair effort, but the vulnerability remains. The temporary fix is not a permanent solution. The permafrost will keep thawing. The question now, are we ready to invest in resilient infrastructure, or will we keep reacting after disaster strikes?